How you doing? Well, I've been always, I've been having trouble. I used to think it was what I was eating and stuff like that. Um, I feel like this extreme sickness. If I was to describe it, I would say like my side feels like it's on fire. I can't say whether it's kidneys or not. It's on my right side. Can't think straight at this moment entirely, especially while I'm trying to remember other things. But when I was 7 years old, I had I thought I had food poisoning, and the whole thing was that I was basically just doubled over for like a week straight, and I didn't even eat for a week either. I didn't eat for a week. I was just double over in pain, just hurting. Uh, I was hurting so bad. Like as a little kid, I just slid underneath the couch and you know, just sitting there groaning like all night. Nobody really checking on me or anything other than to be like, hey, time for school, you going to school? And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere, you know. Or it'd be like, hey, your friend's outside, you gonna go play? I'm like, I'm not about to go play with anybody. I feel like crap, you know. And when I was young, I was thinking that maybe it was, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know how to put it. I could say like some kids make things look more extreme than what it is. And I guess by the time they decided to look at me about mine, that's what I was thinking about in my head. Like, okay, maybe because kids blow things out of proportion, that the adults are just now starting to believe in me being sick. And nothing much was done about it, you know. Just like, hey, you know, you can go to the store, get you some Pepto Bismol, stuff like that, you know. In which, you know, I tore that fucking bottle up. I drank that Pepto Bismol, still doubled over, still in pain, but I happened to make it through. And it was it was an awkward thing to realize that a sickness that I had gave an excuse to myself saying this is a seasonal, like a seasonal, you know, type of illness, you know, because it will always begin to happen around a certain time of the year, October. I don't have no allergies like that other than fake sugar. It'll make my hands kind of bubbly. Um, but it was it was odd, you know. I accepted that as an excuse because I was hearing this from adults. As I was studying myself, I'm listening to the adults around me telling me, "Hey, it might just be a seasonal flu type deal or something like that." You know, and I'm like, okay, it might be. And as I'm, so I started studying diseases and sicknesses and stuff like that because I wanted to know what the hell was going on with me. There was no reason for me to be hurting like that, and I didn't see any other child that I talked to feel that kind of pain. You know, and some of them get a little sick, but you realize their moms were actually making them sick on purpose to avoid being sicker later. And I was like, okay, yeah, I heard about that, like, you know, chicken pox and stuff like that. I heard about that being done before. So I I didn't even put two and two together on it. All right, so past this being the excuse of being told this is a seasonal thing, I finally began to make it to adulthood, young adulthood. I moved out my mom's house. Moved out my mom's house, and I wasn't sick. I didn't get sick for 2 years. Take that back. I didn't get sick for a year. I didn't get sick for a year. That's what it was. I didn't get sick for a year, and then the next year, I did get sick, and that's where things kind of going out of you know. So when I moved out and I stayed with my best friend. Uh, we I kicked in a little bit, but I kicked in nowhere near as much as I needed to because apparently my name was still being used at my mom's house to for her electricity. So whatever money I had, I was splitting it between both. I was still paying my mom's bills and paying and putting in because I wasn't paying off those. I was putting in on the bills from where I was staying at. That made me feel like shit for a little bit. But so uh, 2 years past that, all right, yeah, yeah, yeah. So for those 2 years, I wasn't sick. When I was staying with them, I wasn't having that sickness. And then it was like, oh man, it's just so dirty. It was like the person who was gonna be my wife. It was like it was a whole head whirlwind right there. And when I hooked up with her, I got sick again. And I was like, oh man, this must be, must be some serious seasonal flu type deal. I went from eating healthy food to eating less healthier, and that's why I am sick. That's what was in my head. That I got sick because I eat less healthier food. And so, kind of shorten up the story. Me and her, started to have a child, and we started moving in together. And before we moved in together, there was a point where there was a time frame where I kind of wasn't staying with anybody. I was just on my own, living in the streets and stuff, and I wasn't sick. I'm talking about like sleeping outside. I was not sick. I wasn't sick. So me and her, we moved into that little small apartment by the college, and um, I did get sick. I got sick around October again. It took a toll on my body because I was working like three different jobs, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that it was the jobs I was working that was adding on all that kind of stress to my body, and I got the sickness again, and eating bad food. Once again, being a brand new young father, only thing around the house to really eat was what I got from work or uh, what was allotted through WIC. You know what I'm saying? Eating those little balls, little kicks like type cereal. Definitely wasn't a good deal. So a little bit further advanced. Well, a good amount of time advanced past that. Let's just give it a little course of saying 14, 15 years later. Marriage went to crap. Um, uh, Back homeless again, as I am now. I am still currently homeless. And I was like, let me, go chill at my mom's for a little bit, take a shower, wash some clothes, uh, kick in a little bit on groceries and stuff. I had stopped doing the bill thing because she hated me doing the bills. Because when I first moved in with her, and she asked me to handle the bills, I started handling the bills, but she didn't like the way I was handling the bills because I was knocking it off, and I was getting on to her about knocking it off because the first month she was talking about she was behind on something, so I let that slide. Second month, uh, something got cut off, and I was like, "This shit ain't right. If I'm giving you money for the bills, nothing should be cut off." And then turn to find out, the money wasn't going on the bills, and she was just she was doing whatever and taking off to New Orleans and chilling with her boyfriend and whatnot. So so basically she stopped. So basically she stopped me from paying the bills. She stopped me from paying the bills, but still me, I'm gonna contribute something. I'm like, I'm not really gonna care that she doesn't want me to pay the bills. I'm like, bills get cut off, they get cut off, whatever, whatever. I can still do whatever I'm gonna do. So my niece, my nephew, my little sister, they all at the house and stuff, and I'm sitting there like, well, let me kick in on some groceries, let me get cleaning supplies and stuff like that. All kinds of necessities for the household and everything. And it was a bit of a waste of money because whenever I buy food, the kids would just be like, I'm a DoorDash some stuff, and that'd be a waste. Food I done cooked and everything. But I wasn't complaining because as an adult, I'm like, well, I bought this. I was like, I bought this. Oh, that's that sickness. It feels like acid reflux, but it feels so much worse. Like I don't. Yeah, it was like gut on fire, acid reflux. When I threw up, that stuff was like brownish red, dark red. It I thought it was just like the deepest part of the bowel, the blood lining up my stomach. I was throwing up. It felt like as I was throwing up, it felt like it was about to just come up. Like it was about to turn all inside out. Shit got bad. Um, so as I'm staying over there, I've been homeless for 3 years. I've been homeless for 3 years up to this date. A little over 3 years up to this date. And I know a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just go ahead and get something small? And I was like, I did want to. I guess being a little stupid because it was my first time going through a divorce and going through child support, which was another fucked up thing. Didn't know that that I was placed on child support 3 years ago, and I had no notice, but they still gave me the arrears, which gave me $25,000 in arrears for child support. I don't know who gave her that idea, but hmm, that was some pretty wild stuff. In the state of Louisiana, they okayed it. They okayed it because they I don't know why they act like they wanted their money, and they made it seem like they was completely certain I was gonna be able to give it to them, which is just 24, $25,000 in arrears with 700 child support, over 700 child support per month on a fixed income because homeless. I'm still military. Uh, I could not get a house through it. I was trying to, and everything was just crappy. They only houses that were available were like in dangerous neighborhoods. That was ready immediately, and anything that was decent that I felt would have gave me a bit of an edge when it came to uh, you know, having my kids. Have my kids to stay with me if they chose to. Uh, Whenever I try to go for those places, it was just that it was always something. Like if I contact the VA representative for the housing, they kind of like shirk me off. They're gonna do something, be somewhere, or go to a different state or something. It was so weird, and it was like how to put it. So for now, even though I have a I have a more open window to get a house through VA. Now the arrears and everything and the child support shot my credit so fucking low. shot my credit so low. I'm gonna have to get a credit card, and I think at least probably 3 months to be able to get a shitty house. Men who try to truly be fathers to their kids, they're put through the ringer. They are put through the ringer, and honestly, I kind of felt like it was gonna be the case because as I'm not trying to talk about anybody, but as I'm going through, as like as I'm entering into my child support uh, court case, there's nothing but angry women in there. How can I say it's angry women? Because every time, oh, okay, let me put it like this: I was at least like number 50 to get called up, but everybody else, anytime like some dude say something, I mean, and it didn't make it any better the fact that they were like two convicts or something that was or two people from jail. Uh, and they had to constantly tell them to sit down or do something. So it didn't make my chances any better, on that. But other than them two, other people, whenever they got to explaining their situation, I'm just looking at these. Well, especially one woman, I'm looking at her face like twist up like crazy. Like I was like, there is no way. There is no way this group of women is supposed to be for the benefit of my child. They're literally just trying to see, hey, what is the mama getting? Fuck how much care you taking care of your children. How much are you giving the woman? Because anything you give to the child is a gift. I was like, damn. I was like, truth be told, life is a gift. But when you are separated and you're not living with your child, you try to do something for them. You know what I'm saying? You don't want your child to go without. I don't think of any reasonable parent that would want their child to go without. Um, but that's what I was told. Whatever I gave to the kids was considered a gift, and it was supposed to be about what did I give to the mother. So for the mother, she asked for $100, which she called haircut money. On top of this $100 I give her, I would take my kids and we'd go shopping. I'm like, hey, y'all need, you know, shoes, clothes, school items. What do you need? And they used to tell me that, whatever they needed. And as time went on, further, more and more, every month, every time I'm sitting here, and I get the kids, I'm like, hey, what do y'all need to get? And they just was getting quieter and quieter. And then, the mother would sit there and kind of like watch me talk to them. And whenever I was like, hey, y'all want to go to the store, that she'd be like, no, 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 don't take them to the store. Don't take them to the store. Don't do this. Don't do that. They don't need this. They don't need that. Just, give me this, give me that. And I'm like, nah, I'm gonna take my kids to the store and I'm gonna get them what they need and whatever they want. Simple as that. Give them what they need and what they want. That was always my thing. Give them what they need first and then whatever they want. If long as it's within long as within budget. But so it was just crazy. So being homeless three over 3 years, staying with my mom, I started realizing that I was getting that sickness again, and it will always happen. Like whenever I start trying to like leave from over there, like I'm like okay, like I'm getting on my business, getting on my court stuff. Let me start trying to find a place to go live, and it'll be like one weekend I wouldn't even be expecting it. All of a sudden I'm just feeling like shit, and I'm just like, yo, I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, my body's tearing up. Let me Then he started changing up my diet. So I did a lot of coconut water. A lot of coconut water. It was pretty soothing to my interior. Um, a lot of watermelon, coconut water. I was eating extremely healthy, and nothing was bothering me for a while until child support happened, and then now that's 700. That's an additional over $700, out of my pocket gone, and I'm sitting here looking like, damn, what am I gonna buy for? What am I gonna eat for this month? What am I gonna do? So I'm sitting here eating on fucking food from gas stations. Got like a little combo, hot dog, chips, and a drink for like $3 and something cents. Why not? And I'm sitting there just eating on that up, and I'm like, man, I'm like, this stuff's gotta be tearing me up on the inside. Let me stop eating this. So I'm trying to slow down on eating that food. Uh, Started getting sick again. And I'm like, okay, it's because of all the hot dogs. And I'm talking about this is over a span of the 3 years. Like after, okay, over the span of 3 years, within the first year, I only got sick once, and then in the second year, I got sick like I say like I say like I say like once a month. Got sick, and then within my third year, I started spending more time away. But whenever I was there, whenever I got there to my mom's house, I would be sick like almost instantly. I I couldn't tell whether like because all right. So other than my niece, nephew, my sister, my younger brother, and I say younger brother because he's a little taller than me, but he's younger than me. My sister stays adjacently across the street, and she has three sons, and they used to always be sick. So I started buying medicine for them to knock out the sickness. Did that, knocked out the sickness. They weren't sick. Nobody in the house was sick, but me. I'm the only one sick, and it was so weird to me because I'm like, I don't really get sick like this. I don't get sick like this other than me being sick from those past times. Whenever I wasn't there with her, I wasn't sick. But so as I'm over there, just oh, excuse me, feels like I want to burp up acid. But I know as soon as like any of that comes up, that's gonna be complete throw up, acid throwing up, which I definitely need to throw up. But let me continue. So as of the last 6 months of staying there, I'm sitting here, catching this pattern. I'm like, damn. I'm like, on weekdays, if I stay at my mom's house, I'm not sick. But on the weekend, Saturday or Friday night or Saturday, I would be sick because toxicology is not open on the weekends. Toxicology is not open on the weekends. I went to doctors, anywhere I could go, and I was trying to find out. Now I gotta say this: when I'm talking about toxicology not open on the weekends, it wasn't open on weekends. And when I waited for the week to happen, I'm like, yo, I saved up, a few things. Like, hey, let me go ahead and get this stuff tested out. They denied me. They denied me getting tested. They denied me getting tested. How you deny to do your own job, especially if I have to pay for it? If I have to pay for a toxicology report, why do I get denied? Went to a so then after that I went to a primary health care. I was like, hey, uh, I usually come over here and get my yearly, my annuals done, and I, I haven't came the last year, but let me get this report up again this year. And the lady was like, "Is there a specific reason you decided to come back?" And I was like, "Yeah, my body feels weird. I think something is in it, and I wanted to get it checked out. I want to know if there's something foreign in my body that should not be in my body." And then this other lady came out, "Oh, we're not supposed to be testing on this." I'm like, "But you already done annuals on me where it will show up a report about everything that's supposed to be shown up." You know what I'm saying? The annuals being, for like STDs, annuals for anything involving the body, anything on the body level and stuff, all those things. I have them done. I had gotten it done. Even got the old papers from them. But when I went there this time, it was like, "Oh no, we don't do that. We don't do that. We can't accept it. We can't accept that." And I was like, "Okay, it's a little off. Go to the next place. Hey, I'm trying to get a toxicology report. How much does it cost? What needs to be done?" And I was denied there as well. I was like, "There is no fucking way. There ain't no fucking way this whole town is just." It's like, "Who's that? That Shannon Pratt? Nah, don't test him. Don't test him. Give him to like next week, and then call him up and tell him, hey, we'll do a test for you." I don't need to test in. Whatever is in my body is most likely been assimilated into my body, and you ain't gonna find nothing in it, which it'll just make me look crazy as fuck. You know what I'm saying? It's like, "Oh, you're not hurt, but you complain about this." Yeah, but nobody budged or moved whenever I try to make a move, and now y'all want to make a move, and the stuff seemed entirely crazy. Stuff seemed entirely crazy. So down to right now, sick again with that very same sickness. My side is on fire. So this is how this happened. Wasn't feeling nothing wrong at all until I went to my mom's house and took a nap on a Saturday. Went and took a nap on a Saturday. And it was like when I woke up, my mouth was dry, but it was two different kinds of dry. Like I could feel something else different on my cheek. Like it felt like something else, like it was a different liquid was sitting there. Because I was laying down like on my right side, so I was thinking it was slab or whatever. But I'm like, no. I'm like, even though it's just as dry over here, the consistency of this fluid is different from dryness. The two different sets of dry, like a different liquid other than saliva or anything, versus the saliva being dry in my mouth, mouth being dried up. So, all right. So even with that, even going to the hospital, went to the hospital. I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get something checked on. I think I've probably been poisoned. Can you check me out? Can you see what's going on?" Poop, poop, poop. And the people look at me like, "Oh, weren't you in the military? You got PTSD and all. You sure? You still taking your meds and everything?" And I'm like, "Sir, if I'm here at this hospital because I feel like something's wrong with my body, no amount of conspiracy is gonna deny the fact that something's wrong with my body, other than the doctors themselves denying on paperwork that something's wrong with my body." So go over there. Doctors are like, because I've been over to the hospital like 2 3 times, and you can see them constantly getting frustrated because they're like, "Oh man, here comes that kid who think his mom or somebody over at his mom's house is poisoning him. He's coming over here trying to get another test. What is he gonna complain about this time?" You can see those looks. One of them even said it to me like that. It was like, damn, this kid, like, sir, you don't think you just a little off? I'm like, man, my side is hurting. I'm throwing up. I don't get sick like this unless I'm over there. I don't get sick like this unless I'm at my mom's house. If I don't get sick like this, and she was like, well, did you used to get sick like this before? I was like, yes, because she did read out the report from the previous report when I was, like as I told y'all, I had this sickness when I was 7, and I had it periodically, to where I thought it was seasonal. To the point where the only time I wasn't sick with it was when I was nowhere near my mom. I was over in Afghanistan. A-OK. I was in a mule on a boat. A-OK. Every time I was never around there, I was good. Every time I was never over there, I was okay. I'd never had that sickness. Every time I was never around my mom's, my grandma's, or my wife's, I was okay. Ex-wife. Every time I was okay. And I think that might have been the main reason why I said I wouldn't mind going back, because even though it was wartime, I was at peace. I was at peace in the middle of war. And so now I'm here, and it's been about 3 days. It's been about 3 days by now, and I couldn't really eat nothing. When I try to eat, I threw up everything. I'm talking about I threw up everything. And the first thing that I started throwing up, it always brought up to my attention, was this clear liquid. It'll be like saliva, but in excess, like an overabundant amount of saliva, and it'll just be like, ooh, it just pouring out of my mouth and stuff, and then I just throw it up. I couldn't tell what it was. Looked up different poisons that could cause that. Too many of them. And okay, so I've been like this for like the last 3 days, and I went to the doctors, and I didn't even mention this. I didn't even mention the the my mom's trying to poison me kind of deal. I'm just like, hey, I'm feeling sick. I've been throwing up this liquid and that liquid, and I need to get it checked and see if there's something wrong. One of the ladies came, and she was like, yeah, that was. She's like, yeah, it was kind of weird. We don't really have anything. Nothing's really wrong. And then she was like, you know, she was like, unless your mom poisoned you or something. And I was like, I mean, I'm talking about. I chimed in. I chimed in like a dumbass. Like, hmm. I was like, I ain't say it. You said it. I was like, whenever I say it, people think I'm crazy. But you say it. You sound like you know something. And she was just like, well, I'll meet you. Like, well, I won't. I was like, that's how it is. Imagine the craziest conspiracy being that an entire twin city is trying to take you out. And in a weird way, it's like they're not even trying to take you out. They just want you to depend on them. If there's anything I depend on, it's gonna be God. God is all I depend on. I mean, I look towards help. Sometimes, I try to receive help, but just by history, whenever I try to go for help in the past, I was always denied. And I got to the point where I didn't even want to hear a denial, so I would just go and handle it on my own. All right, well, still with this. All right, so I'm on an empty stomach. Water right there, I can't even really drink it. As soon as I drink it, I'm gonna throw it up. I'm gonna throw it up. Got some pills from CVS yesterday. Got that filled out yesterday. Still, still feeling like this. I mean, truth, I did get that just yesterday, and it allowed me to go to sleep. It allowed me to not have to deal with the pain, and it let me go to sleep. But huh, this stuff really be bothering me. I've been powering through it for this whole time. This is probably the most I ever talked the whole last 3 days. And I just feel like I gotta talk about it because this feels like a memory. This all feels like a memory to me. But except this part, because if it was going according to memory, I didn't speak on this last time. Or I did and I didn't upload it. I'm gonna definitely upload this one. All I can say is for, for anybody who is truly good, and I don't mean good within your own right, not good within your own permission. I mean good, and you keep God in your heart. I pray for y'all, and I pray for my enemies, and I pray for my blasphemers. I pray for everybody, and try not to listen to me these opinions online, because some of them are convincing. You know, like I remember once, like, well, don't pray for your enemies. Why would you do that? And I'm like, yeah, that does kind of make sense. Why would you pray for your enemies? And then you kind of wonder, what if God works in such a mysterious way that He'll be like, pray for your enemies too? And when you bless them and they don't bless ongoing and on forth, an account has been made. And I'm not saying pray to so you can like get people in trouble or anything. That's not the case. It's just weird things, you know. I've been praying ever since I was a little kid. You know, I've been in the Baptist church. I started off in the Baptist church, and then I went to I was in the Baptist church with my grandma. Then my mom took me to a Mormon church, and then uh, uh, my ex-wife took me to a regular Christian church, and uh, when he got to the military, started studying Muslim Islam. Um, I started studying all those other nationalities of church and what they believe in God and everything. And I've always compared them to one another. Not like comparing them against each other, but comparing for similarities. And I always, it was like a mark. It was like one of those little old test worksheets. What's the similarities? What's the differences? And I would do that. And for most times, most of the differences would be the names. But one thing that gets to a good conclusion that came to my head was with even all these things worshiping and everything, and everybody's like, oh, worship these demons and stuff like that. I'm like, if you worship demons, or if I grow up and I see other people worshiping demons and stuff like that, or bold enough to even speak or something like that, of that nature, then there has to be God. I'm not saying like there has to be God for like a point of not being scared. I'm just saying when you grow up, you hear God, demons, and angels, and the devil. You hear you hear God, Jesus, the devil, demons, and angels, and other things in between. And as I see more others worship towards, Jesus, and worship towards angels, and worship towards demons, and worship towards the devil, I haven't seen too many of them worship God. And whenever they did worship God, it was about their God, you know, their God that gave them permission to do whatever they wanted. And the main thing to me is when I first read the Bible, when I was young, it was like when I first read the Bible, it was like two introductions. And I always said that I was like, there was always two introductions in the very beginning. You know, it would be like, oh, I'm here, I'm a thought, I'm here, I'm God. And then it's like, and now introducing the one who turns on the lights. One called Lord, and I'm like, yo, I'm like, what am I? I'm not study religion for yourself. Truly, truly study religion for yourself. I'm still learning, and I'm not saying I got it correct, but I feel pretty confident in what I'm doing. But still, at the same time, that could be pride itself, being confident. You don't want to be confident because you can easily be confident in a lie. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be confidently wrong and so boastful that you don't even want to admit to being wrong. You know what I'm saying? But all I can say is like ever since just I looked towards God, like you know, when I was a kid, people be like, "Oh, you need to pray to Jesus and everything." I'm like, Jesus is a man, and boy, them adults will look at me like, "How dare you? How dare you say that? He is not just a man. He a deity." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me show you in the book. Let me show you in the Bible where he says you're not gonna worship any no wood, no stones, no deities before me." You know, I think I probably misquoted that, but within that same realm, no sticks, no wood, no stones, no gold, no jewelry, nothing being worshipped, no idols being worshipped ahead of me. And that was supposed to be a thing. And also within those idols was supposed to be man. Man was supposed to be part of idol. Because if you worship him, it's idolatry. So that was like my main thing. when I was young. It was like, hey, you gonna pray to Jesus? And at first I was like, yeah, I was praying to Jesus. But the whole thing is in my head, I'm praying to God, but I gotta say in the name of Jesus because he was supposed to be in the doorway. And then I was like, oh man, what if I don't I don't want to get too far into that. It's just I was thinking it could have been a trap or something like that. Like I said, that stuff led to a lot of confusion to where I started studying a lot of different religions, Bibles. And if I couldn't read their language, I had an interpreter, read it to me. There's no way of me of being able to say whether that interpreter was giving me 100% accuracy on what they read. The only thing I can say is that with the zeal, with the passion that they had for telling me about what they was telling me, I can only imagine that if it's anything like the United States, like here, that what they were saying was true to them. And if it's anything like church, that's what they studied on. That's what they seen as true. So take it for value as is. Take it for value as is. And I was just studying, write it down, and trying to learn a little bit of language for myself so I can speak with a few of the people. Trying to hold a little bit of a conversation. Things things were just getting out of hand, and things were getting out of hand. It was like God was just showing me a lot, like all this right now, other things from the past, just showing me. It's like, hey, I wanted you to look at this and realize you talk too much. And I was like, oh snap, I do. Maybe not. I don't know. I was getting off into a little bit of all the wrong things, trying to find God. I got off into all the wrong things looking for God. That's the best way to put it. Because going from the church, ran from the church. I ran from the church. Then I ran to different churches. And I ran from those churches. And then ran to the military. Ran to those churches over there. I didn't run out the military, but I wasn't following orders the way I was supposed to. It led to what they called a pattern of misconduct, constantly questioning orders and stuff like that. So I definitely was not the best Marine. And yeah, like this stuff, like with this sickness right here, it's so weird. It's like everybody's calling my phone and stuff now. Everybody, you know, it's like everybody's like, "Oh, Shannon, I'm worried about you. Why you ain't calling me?" I'm like, "Why would I call you? I'm sick as hell right now, and you want all attention on you." I'm, I'm not gonna play the games. I'm not here to entertain. I just kept doing my stuff because I don't. Aside from my kids, I don't trust nobody in my family. It's like my younger brother telling me he was like, I've been doing bad things. That's what he told me. He told me he's like, I've been doing bad things, and he kind of didn't really go into no details. He just saying a bunch of small. He was saying it's a bunch of small things, and I'm like, well, why are you telling me? I'm like, you looking for a response, but I could be thinking of this. Wow, you actually meaning this. So you don't have to tell me that in detail. And then he was just like, free Palestine, and then left. I was like, okay. Seemed like a insincere apology. seemed like he wanted to confess something, but didn't like what he was being told by me. You know, I mean, he probably got something out of it, you know, because I mean, I'm an open book, and I've been saying for like quite some time. I mean, I've been hated for saying it, but I was like, I was touched on as a kid, you know. When you're touched on as a kid, it messes your head up, you know. And even like me myself, like when I was touched on as a kid, as I was a kid, I started doing the same thing, and I had broke myself out of the habit. It was like going to church. I started realizing what was supposed to be what, because when it was at my household, when it was going down in my household, I was told nothing about it. I had never heard the word gay. When I was at that household, I never heard the word gay until that church brought it up, and they spoke about how wrong it was, and I was like, oh snap! I'm like, you know, I'm still young, so I'm thinking gay, Barney. Oh, happy, extra happy, happy, yeah, happy. No, it was like no. The preacher was like, no, 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 no. He's like, no, it's different. He's like, no, there's two different kinds of gays. He's like, there's happy gay and there's homosexuality gay. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, and I've been participating in the sinful bad gay, huh? He was like, yes, you have. And he's like, but now, you know, he was shocked because how young I was. You know, I was like 5 years old talking to this man about this. And he was just shocked as hell that I'm even up there talking to him about this. And then very soon left that church and went to the Mormon church. I, but I wasn't questioning it as a young kid. I didn't know what was going on. I was just learning everything. I was just learning. I didn't know what was going on. I'm just living life as I'm learning, trying to, you know, make my way to God, trying to make certain that I can get into heaven. All this has gotten so dark. So even though I had that issue, I had okay, part of my confusion when I was young. When I was younger and I was going through that, I saw my younger brother start to go through the same thing, and I was already hating myself for being getting into the homosexual activities, in which you know I was beating myself up like literally, like I was scarring my face up and just all the kinds of small ways of punishing myself. And then when I seen my younger brother doing it, I started fighting him. And apparently, me fighting him because of that must have gotten to his head. Like, okay, this is my older brother. He's gonna be always trying to fight me. From what he explained, you know, 3 days ago, you know, he was because he told me he was like when you came. He told me that whenever I came back from the military, that when he came back from the military, that he thought it was just gonna be like the old days. You know, we're gonna be at each other's throats and stuff and fighting and stuff. I'm like, nah, man. I was like, bro, I told him I was angry, confused, all kinds of stuff. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't getting any answers. And there was like a reason for that because everyone else knew what they were doing, and I was never supposed to find out what they were doing. I was never supposed to know. I wasn't supposed to be privy to what I am privy to. And I'm not saying that I know it all. Hell, I'm certain I know way less. I'm certain I know way less. My bad, stomach really irritating me. Probably go ahead and get off. But I'm feeling so dried out. I gotta be able to eat something. I got these little crackers, but anything I put on my stomach, I'm throwing it up and dry heaving and everything. Um, Things got dark within the household, and it seems like everybody's trying to cover a lot of stuff up, and things mess things mess me up because my child got involved into some of it, and he wouldn't talk to me about it. He wouldn't let me know anything. I didn't even know what was going on. I had no idea what was going on. It was so messed up how it happened. My son was just like we were always playing and stuff, and then it was like he was just afraid of me out of nowhere, and I couldn't understand why my son seemed to build that distance from me. Uh, I mean, there was a few things I could think of, but they turned out to be totally wrong. The reasons that I gave for him not wanting to be around me. It wasn't me touching on him or anything of that nature at all. I believe me, I don't do that at all. Matter of fact, I'm probably hated around here because if I meet a gay person, they'd be like, "Oh," I'm like, "Well, you're a damaged person." They'd be like, "What damage? I ain't damaged." I'm like, "Man, I'm like somebody probably touched on you while you was young, and now you like it." And they'd be like, who you think you is?" I'm like, "Shit, someone who could have been you, someone who walked that road, who was able to tell you what's what." A lot of people didn't like that. Um, but yeah, I didn't know that a lot of that stuff was happening in my family, and that it continued to happen in my time in the military while I was gone. I had no idea what was going on. So many secrets while I was in the military. So many things that was taking place that was happening, and it was like nobody wanted to say nothing to me until like 2 Christmases ago. My sister decided to say something, and when she said something, it was like the way she said it was almost like everyone else already knew except me. Like everybody kind of like just everybody kind of gathered in the living room. It was like, okay, we got to talk. We're gonna have this talk on Christmas, and it's like, it's kind of weird. Nephew's birthday's on Christmas. Uh, just one more thing to kind of add on to that plate about him. Oh, 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 oh. All right.